the point when you think you know everything, you know nothing. Like we need to open ourselves up. We need to be nicer people, and we need to not assume that we know everything about everybody and every subject around us because there's so much information, right? We've got that confirmation bias. If we started looking at everything that we have similar with people as opposed to our differences, man, we'd be so much better just as humanity. And that's one thing that I would really love to see. I started doing that and practicing myself as opposed to like looking at this person like, oh, they're so different to me. Like, what can I find that's similar? Because I thought I knew them by looking at them. It turns out I know nothing about them.
Welcome my guest, Joey Thurman. He is a health, fitness, nutrition expert and television contributor. He is the author of 365 Health and Fitness Hacks That Could Save Your Life, host of the Fad or Future Podcast, and author of the new book, The Minimum Method, The Least You Could Do to Be Stronger, Healthier, Happier You. Joey was named the best trainer in Chicago by the Chicago Sun-Times in 2015 and New Beauty Top 3 Celebrity Trainers. He has appeared on Good Morning America, The Today Show, Tamron Hall, TEDx, and his own Facebook Watch series, Home Sweet Home. Also, he has been featured in publications such as Men's Health, Pop Sugar, US News, People Magazine, Shape, Fitness Magazine, Bodybuilding.com, Beachbody, and so much more. All right, I'm welcoming on the show Joey Thurman, which is, did I say that right? Thurman,
like Uma.
Thurman.
Uma minus the money.
Thurman.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I felt that was wrong. So anyways, welcome to the show, Joey. I'm so happy to have you on the show. More I've been learning about you and prepping for this interview, what I love most about you is really just lay it out as it is with not really filtering and trying to show up perfectly as like, this is the way to do it, to stay fit and healthy. You really talk about the integrated approach of the overall health and well-being of the internal work and then also the external work. So that's what I really love with what I learned about you and reading your book that you have coming out soon. And then also just reading up on some of your articles and the podcast interviews. And one thing I really love that I'm going to pull out initially that you talk about is working in, not just working out. And so that's what I really want to pull out to kind of start this interview is, so you're a celebrity trainer. Of course, a lot of people, when they think of working with a trainer, they think about like looking good and eating right and really just like, how could I, get the most fit body and feel healthy and good, right? But it's much more than that. So I would love to just start like from your many years in being a professional celebrity trainer, how has your journey changed from when you initially started training to now?
Yeah, massive journey. It's been a long road. And, when I originally started training people, I didn't know anything, but I thought I knew everything. And that's the point when you know nothing. So I knew that I played college hockey and like only just beat people up because I really didn't know exactly how to train or how to train each individual. Every body, B-O-D-Y, is completely different. So I would just kick the crap out of them, try to make them throw up, make them feel out of shape, make them feel like they needed me. And that wasn't good because we're always the more better mentality. And that didn't work for a lot of people. And then once I started educating myself and taking a step back and looking inside of the person and talking to them and realizing that I need to treat every single individual completely differently, even if they've got the same body, even if it's a twin, they need to be treated completely differently from the inside out, from the outside in. And sometimes we need to get healthy first before we lose weight, if that's your goal. And I think that's a hard concept for people to grasp, and that working in concept really strikes a chord with a lot of people, especially females when I train them, because they've never really heard that, or if they're having a heavy flow cycle, like, why don't you focus on the working in right now instead of working out? Like, don't go and have a bunch of ice cream and pizza and everything else and feed your feelings. but take some time to yourself and journal, do some meditation, do some light Pilates, things like that, because your body is tired right now. Like it's this monthly cycle that's happening. So let's take care of you inside, and taking care of you on the inside will in turn take care of the outside.
Absolutely. That's so true. And I think you touched on one thing about like noticing how you feel right now at this present moment, and without judging it or needing to correct it or to do something different to like get out of that feeling necessarily, but sitting with it. And I was listening to this interview you were doing. It was one of the first interviews. Like if I Googled it, it was the first interview that popped up, and I listened to it. And what I loved about this interview is not what I expected from you, but what I really loved is your vulnerability you shared in this interview. And it was talking about being able to sit with your feelings and like letting it be what it is and not needing to push it away, but actually like sit and breathe through it. So can you kind of share why this conversation was something you were talking about in this interview in particular, and what does that mean to you, is really sitting with the feelings, and how has that transformed you personally?
Yeah, for a long time I was just kind of this angry guy for a while, and I still have my issues, that's for sure. But I've struggled with depression since I was 14 years old, and then I've gone to all sorts of counselors and therapists and things. And once I started realizing to own what I was feeling and those emotions, my internal response to the external, right? And sit with it, whether I'm angry, whether I'm sad, whether I'm frustrated, whether I can't even explain why. I just anchored that feeling and started doing that, and then letting everybody else around me know how I was feeling at the time as well. So yeah, I was diagnosed with depression at 14 years old, and I've worked with all sorts of mental health counselors, therapists, and things like that. And I found that once I really started owning how I was feeling in that particular moment, or even in that day, like sometimes you just wake up, you just don't feel good. You get all these amazing things happening to you, like be on Erica's podcast, and that's all should be good, but sometimes we just don't feel good. So acknowledging those feelings, anchoring yourself in those feelings, and owning it, just sitting with it. Like, I feel like crap right now. I don't know why. Or, I had a bad day at work, and this is why. Just sit with that and acknowledge it, because we're always told to like brush it off, especially as a guy. Like you scrape your knee as a boy. It's okay, rub it off. Like, maybe you need to cry. Maybe you need to let it out. And embracing that will just really, I think, negate a lot of further trauma that you could experience down the road.
Absolutely. And just out of curiosity, I know you train with men and women. Who do you feel maybe struggles the most with that foundational piece of like that inner well-being? Because that's what I mean. It's hard to say like these days. I'm wondering like, what do you see more common?
Yeah, I think that women, if we're stereotypically saying they're more like aware of their feelings, or you're being so emotional, right? Like, I hate that crap when they say that about females all the time. Like, if a woman is angry, like, they're emotional. If a guy is angry, he's stern. That's not cool. That's not good. I do think, from what I've noticed, anecdotally or anecdata, if you will, from the plethora of people that I've trained in my, women seem to be just a little bit more willing to share how they're feeling, in that particular moment. So I think maybe they have a leg up there, because if we're just going down, the stereotype lines here, you're a typical guy or played sports or whatever, but they don't really know how to express that. So I think that's why sometimes it shocks people if they see me or they see me on TV talking about this sort of stuff, and like, wow, he looks the way he does this, all these sort of things, and he's still able to be in tune with his feelings. So yeah, as a whole, I think a little bit more women are much more willing to share their insides, but I think guys, hopefully me and other individuals that are doing this, being much more open and honest, they're able to do that. I know with my guy clients, I do ask them how they're doing. I'm consulting at a gym right now. I ask the front desk people, how are you doing? Like, oh, I'm good. I'm like, no, I expect you to let me know if your day sucks. I want to know. Don't give me that bullcrap answer of like, oh, everything's okay. Sometimes it's not. Let me know so I can be aware. Maybe I can be a little more sensitive to how you're feeling today.
I think that's great, that giving men or women the permission to feel naturally how they feel, and maybe not needing to correct it at that moment, but yet kind of help them in the process of your training or whatever you're teaching them at that moment. I think that's awesome. So what what has led you into your fitness journey? Like, what was your catalyst to being a fitness trainer? Was there some, I don't know, every fitness trainer has kind of a different path. Like, so I'm just curious what led you into this since it's been your journey for so long.
Yeah, yeah. To be completely honest, I was thinking about going to law school my senior year, and I was playing hockey. And yes, these teeth are real. And then I just realized, you know what? I don't want to do any more school. I like working out, and training was kind of in its infancy at the time. There was really no exercise science, or if you went to school for the body was more kinesiology, and you're going to be a gym teacher or something like that. There wasn't really many schools that were offering exercise science. So yeah, my senior year, after hockey, I'm like, I need to do something, I need to figure it out. So I ended up just meeting a physiology professor who was starting a personal training program at my school, Southern Illinois, Edwardsville, and sort of had a little understudy program with him, and started my career in Chicago. Picked up my bright yellow Mustang convertible and drove there and took a job with a big chain gym, and that's kind of how it all started. I just sort of fell into it because I don't think I wanted that big boy job. I just wanted to, help people and work out. And I didn't really know what training was at the time. I just knew that I knew how to work out. I got certified, and coming to find out, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't really know anything at the time.
And how about when people come to you, whether it be celebrities or somebody new that is looking to work with a trainer, what do you feel is like the foundational piece you like sit down with them and ask them about to get started with you? What do you feel is like the foundational pillar that they need to address, if you want to say?
Well, I think our personalities need to match too. I'm not going to be the best person for every single person. Who's the best trainer in the world? It's the one that can get that person results. Erica, who you're out, you're doing something, and maybe you turn down that drink, maybe you go to bed earlier, maybe you get your circadian rhythm on point because I told you to, and you trust in me. That's the best person for you. So I think the personality match is huge, and people often forget about that. And I tell them my expectations of them. Like, if you're getting ready for a movie and you've got 3 months to get in shape, I'm going to give you every single thing possible. Here's exactly what you need to do. If you're just kind of working out for overall general health, like, okay, see me a couple of days a week, but if you're not going to change the way you're eating, if you're not going to change your sleeping patterns, you're not going to get to your ideal body, as fast as you possibly could. But be aware of that. So that acknowledgement of your vices, of your lifestyle factors, if you have kids, all that sort of stuff, I think that's a big thing. But yeah, personality and just owning everything. And I tell people I give them 95% of what they want and 5% of what they actually need.
And then so you have them figure out the next 5% on their own, like taking action.
I tell them basically, I'll figure it out. Whether it's like a postural, it's called dyskinesis or something that is happening there, or like, hey, here's what I see from you. I actually train a therapist. It's interesting, and I'm like, don't pull that therapy card with me. I know what you're doing. I know what's happening. I tell her like, let's stop working out so much because for her, she was working out so much, like go, 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 go. And I said, and she'd be completely fine me telling this, but I think she just had a baby about a year ago, and she was trying to out-exercise all of these behaviors. I'm like, you're chronically inflamed. You're doing all this crazy strength training and these high-intensity sessions, and then you're calorie deprived, and you're just literally burning the candle at both ends. And we need to slow you down. Let's get you healthy first. Stop worrying about the weight loss. And I've only been training her for 2 weeks, and she dropped 5 pounds this week without really changing anything except for her mindset. I'm like, I do believe there's this chronic inflammation and this stress response. Like, cortisol elevations are a good thing, acutely, but not chronically. Inflammation is a good thing. When we work out, our muscles pump up. What is that? That's inflammation. That's a good thing, but we don't want those levels chronically elevated. And if you're stressed, your sleep is going to suffer, then you're going to crave more bad foods, and then your workouts and your recovery and everything down the line, your mental health, your gut health, it's all completely affected. Our bodies are systems, and we need to start treating them that way. It's not just exercise, it's not just diet, it's also sleep, it's also motivation, your personal relationships. There's so much that goes into it, but we all think that we just need to crush one thing, and then that'll take care of the rest.
100%. So actually that brings up your newest book, The Minimum Method. which is coming out in December. And so diving into this book, it's funny because when I think about like the minimum method, like you're thinking about, okay, this is the minimum you need to do to be fit and healthy, which sounds like a cop out initially, right? But you're talking about what you're bringing up right now is like not necessarily is more good. Like sometimes we push ourselves and we burn the candle at both ends. And so this book, what's so great about it is this is really like laying out the holistic foundation of overall health and well-being and the pillars that you need to, check off to just maintain health, but also achieve the body you want with doing these minimum methods. So let's touch on, okay, so less is more sometimes. And this is one thing that I think so many people think when they're trying to lose weight. I'm sure you're approached a lot about this. When people are trying to lose weight or get fit, they're like, oh, I need to do all these things. I need to dial in my diet. I need to restrict all these foods. I need to, have a whole workout routine and all this stuff. But what is your thought on that, bringing up your book and kind of the insight that you share on that in particular?
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's a little bit of kind of the story just told about my client, right? She was doing so much and going. And I write all these articles for all these massive, national and international, magazines and different things. And they're always like, oh, how much cardio do you need? How much whatever. It's contextually based. Erica, what are you doing? What have you been doing? Were you an athlete? Were you this? How much are you sleeping? Right, so that all matters. And yes, we can go with these generalities like 30 minutes of movement a day, all that sort of stuff is great. But like, what movement are you doing or not doing throughout the rest of the day? So when I mean the minimum, I don't mean like literally just don't do anything. I mean, what are these little aspects in your life? Like if your sleep isn't on point, I don't care as what you're doing, at some point you're going to get burned out. Your body is going to simply fry out. So that's why I start the biggest chapter is sleep, and I talk about that because you ask any new mom or new parent that hasn't slept in a couple of weeks, like how they're feeling, and whether they're extra hungry, their brain is slow, that brain fog, and then they try to go to the gym. I know when my son was born, I took 2 weeks off, and granted, my wife took care of most things. He was breastfeeding and everything else, and I was there for him, but I wasn't sleeping consistently. I tried to pick up a weight that would normally be a warm-up weight for me, and I felt like I couldn't do it. I felt like it was 1,000 pounds. Like sleep is, if I'm going to go with an order of things, sleep is absolutely number one, and then what you're eating and relationships, and then exercise. Like we're trying to just out-exercise life, and we can't do that. So we just need to pick these little things that are going to help. So sleep, get your circadian rhythm on point. Everybody's like, I need 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. Yes, you do, but are you getting consistent times of sleep? Are you going to bed at 10 p.m. and waking up at 6 a.m. 7 nights a week? Because there's 7 days in a week, last time I checked, not 5, right? We do the weekends, we party, and then we're going to bed at midnight, and then we're waking up at 10 the next day. We wonder why Mondays always suck, right? Because you're throwing that circadian rhythm out of whack. So the minimum thing that everybody can do for the sleeping right now, just to plug the book again, right, is literally go to bed consistently and wake up consistently around within an hour, give or take, the same time every single night of the week. I guarantee it'll be a game changer.
Yeah, I've had actually, I don't know if you know of Dr. Michael Bruce, America's sleep doctor. He's one of the top experts, and I know you're certified in sleep as well. You're an expert
which
in
is
it.
Which is a thing, which is pretty
It's
funny.
a thing, and especially these days because of what you're saying. It's a foundational piece. And funny enough, I keep on hearing podcasts pop up and people are sharing and emphasizing in your industry the importance of sleep. And so, so many people are drilling at home, like, stop ignoring that, like, sleep is so important. And I think that's really important that you mentioned the circadian rhythm, like just that one thing, how vastly that will change. And of course, there's the blue light, there's so many things. But since I won't go deeper into it just because I have the episodes on sleep. So
Yeah.
I want everybody, go dig into that. It's in the podcast. Dr. Michael Bruce goes really heavy into the subject and how to really maximize sleep. So moving into the other pillars, which would be first, I guess I would pull out is mindset, which I think that's one of the things that a lot of people don't think about is their mindset around fitness and dieting. Like that's really one of the things that I think foundationally we need to change is like, I love that you share in the book, changing the words around how do you associate with fitness and diet. So what are some of those things you would want to share in regards to that with mindset and how to really shift into a better mindset so that you could reap the rewards of these pillars, if you want to say?
Yeah, and you hit on it tremendously, like shifting those words, like, oh, I have to work out today. I get to work out today. Oh, I'm gonna exercise. No, I'm gonna train. You're training for your life. You start doing that. You're putting on your shoes to go to the gym, and you're thinking about like getting that dopamine pathway. Like dopamine's a reward pathway, but it's also motivational. Think about I'm putting on my shoes right now to go to the gym. Putting on my shoes at this moment, tying these gym shoes is going to make me healthier, is going to make me a better wife, a better husband, because I'm going to feel better about myself. I'm going to live longer for my child. Putting on these shoes is going to do that. So then right there, you're triggering that dopamine response. So every time you put on those shoes, eventually, boom, you're gonna start feeling good from putting on your gym shoes. Why is that? Because you trained yourself to do that. So literally just having that thought process, same thing like with the emotion, stop and have that thought. Why am I doing this? So don't think just about the why. Everybody's like, oh, we gotta find the why, the why. The why is great, but how do we get to our why? There's a path that we need to get there. So everybody loves throwing around like, know your why. That's amazing, as you should. But how are we going to get to the why? And the mindset is absolutely crucial in getting there.
Oh, I love that. That's so great. That's so powerful. And I actually shared the other day on Instagram about discipline and how I realized, like Jocko drives this home, like about discipline, and same with David Goggins, like you have to be disciplined. And I think that is truly a cornerstone in developing these healthy habits is the discipline. Like the reason why I'm doing this is to feel better, or the reason why I'm doing this is to be healthy. And it's stacking those habits that will then lead to being, self-discipline. So I'm curious, how do you feel somebody could really develop their own personal discipline in these little minimum methods that we could use to maximize our health and our fitness goals?
Yeah, so I like people doing, kind of a survey on your like life cycle, if you will. Like stop and think about throughout your day. Okay, I go to bed at this time. I wake up. This is how I feel. I'm motivated in the morning. I'm not motivated in the morning. Here's the times of the day when I feel better about myself. Just start jotting that down, right? And we start getting this graph in there. In the evenings, I try to work out, but I'm so tired. I'm sluggish, and because I had all these life factors happen for me. So then you start figuring out, okay, when in my day can I put in the working out? Can I actually meal prep? Can I find that good restaurant that's by work where I can, not have the sweets or whatever your vice is, where you're going to overeat and have those highly palatable foods. So you start doing that. I think that's huge. And then also the 4 M's of mental health, which is movement, mastery, meaningful, and mindfulness. So like you need to move throughout the day. Let's just get some movement in there that's good for the brain. Mastery, do something that challenges you. Like do a puzzle, an exercise program. Maybe it's like for me, like doing Pilates, something that I don't do. That's going to challenge my body. That's also going to help my mind. That's going to help that reward pathway. Meaningful engagement, friends, family, like you have to do that, like tangible, like hug somebody, like be with them. And then just being mindful about yourself and not just like, oh, I'm going to be mindful. What does that mean? Being present in that moment, like, wow, I feel so great right now because I took that walk. I got outside. I actually got to bed 7 nights a week at a consistent time. All these different things are really going to start helping you, but you have to be aware and you have to put pen to paper, like actual paper. Try to do that. Like that will cue you to realize that I can do this. And here's the things in my life that maybe, these are things that I can't change. Maybe I have to have that glass of wine at night. Okay, I'm not telling you not to. Does that glass of wine actually help you just calm down? And that weight lifted? That weight lifting is you going from a sympathetic to a parasympathetic state. Erica, if you need that glass of wine, you're really stressed out at night, I don't want you to beat yourself up about that glass of wine. I just want you to be a little bit better during the day with what you're eating or what you're doing so you can have that. Do I want you to be an alcoholic? Absolutely not. But if that's the one thing which is like, wow, just the sip of that red wine, go ahead and have it. And then let's look at everything else in your life that we can just try to, at a minimum, just make a little bit better.
Yeah. I'm sure you get this question a lot, like, how do I stay motivated? I think that's the one thing that people struggle with. And I know there's internal motivation and external motivation. And I know for myself, I mean, I've been like fitness for me and healthy eating has been a lifestyle for me for gosh, like since I was 16. And so for me, it's very much internally driven than external because it's already a part of me. Like I've already like stacked my habits, right? So, but I know a lot of people struggle, and especially I'm sure you've noticed after COVID, like we're kind of post COVID now, there was a lot of weight gain, a lot. Like the, what do they call it? The COVID gain or something. I don't know. But
That's it, the COVID-19, I think some people would
yeah,
say, so.
it's crazy. So what would you say when people ask you like, how do I stay motivated? It's such a funny question to me because I think it's not that simple, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely not that simple. I mean, I think people are looking for these extrinsic motivators that all of a sudden, like, I'm going to start training with Joey and I'm being motivated. Okay, that might help you, right? That might, and you pay a lot of money to train with me, maybe financially, like, hey, I'm actually training this guy, I should stay motivated. I tell my clients that all the time. You're paying a lot of money to work with me. Do you really want to waste that money? If so, by all means, I'll take your money. Like, I got a kid, I got to feed him, right? So, sure. But try to find that intrinsic motivation. Start telling yourself, like, what are you doing this for? Are you doing this for me? I really hope that you're doing it for you, because everybody needs to be healthy. Because you can't take care of others if you don't take care of yourself. If you're not healthy, you can't take care of your loved ones. So is that a child? Is that elderly parent? Something like that. So start looking into that. Like, okay, well, if I'm not sleeping well, if I'm not exercising, if I'm not eating well, I won't be able to be there for everybody else the way I want to. Maybe that's enough. Maybe it's a vacation. Maybe that'll do it for you. So all these different motivating factors. I like intrinsic. I like having extrinsic. I like just kind of piling them on. So you've got all these different things. So if kind of one goes away, hey, I still have that. You got to get ready for this wedding in 3 months, and do it in a healthy manner. And everybody has to find their own thing, and not one person is going to give you that motivation. Like, yeah, you can, like, listen to a podcast, you can do that, and hopefully that gives you some tools to do so. But most people just don't change like that. And be aware, it's not going to happen overnight. It's highly, highly unlikely for that to happen. We all fail at life. We learn more from our failures than our successes. So understand that, okay, don't beat yourself up when you fail, because it's going to happen. You are going to fail. Oh, my vice is whatever, Krispy Kreme donuts. Oh my God, I had a donut, I just fell off the wagon, and might as well have, the baker's dozen. Have the donut, even if you binged, and realize, like, hey, it's gonna happen. This is the process, and start moving along from there. And then eventually, hopefully, you're telling yourself enough. You're giving yourself the intrinsic motivation. You can take those external factors, and then hopefully we'll keep on moving. And then it becomes a lifestyle for you. Like, I don't work out. Well, I do work out to look good, right? But I work out for my son. I work out for my family. That's why I work out. I want to be that dad that just, like, wow, he's running around with his son on the soccer field or whatever he wants to do. Like, wow, look how active he is. I don't want to be the dad on the sideline, like, not with him. I don't want to do that. And that motivates me beyond anything else. I have to be healthy for him.
100%. And I love that you pull that out and kind of crystallize that, because I think that's the one thing is going back to the feelings. Like, how do you feel? Like, do you feel good with that heavy weight or the inflammation? Be honest, you don't. Of course you don't. So if you want to feel good, and there's and you and I can relate to this, like, it feels good to take care of your body. It feels good to eat clean food. Like, you naturally have more energy, you feel lighter, like there's a good feeling of that. And so I think that is such a driving force to just want to feel good. Like, then this should be your lifestyle. You should create a path to make it a lifestyle. And so I think the hardest thing is sustainability and keeping a workout plan, keeping a fitness plan, because life happens. That's obviously COVID happened and all these things, but what is your best recommendation to keep it sustainable? Like, I know in your book you share like the myths and the lies of the fitness industry, and I think this is great. I love that you pull this out, because there are a lot of myths and lies. Like, for example, one thing, when I was younger, I used to do my cardio, I used to do my weight training, and sometimes I would do double. Like, I would do my cardio in the morning because I knew I was going to burn the most fat then, and then I would do my resistance training in the evening. But think about that. That's like 2 hours of my time. So that was my old self. And then I started doing Pilates on the Megaformer, and I was doing it 3 days a week, and I got way trimmer than I ever did with cardio, and I felt a lot stronger, and reason being is because resistance training ups your metabolism and burns more fat than cardio does. And it's one thing I've always known is I'm going on a tangent because I remember this for myself. I would always watch these people doing countless, like an hour on the elliptical or the treadmill, and they always look the same. Nothing is changing, I hate to say. And just resistance training, I've been doing resistance training for, I don't know, 8 years, maybe only. Like, I don't do much cardio. My cardio is going for a walk, going for a hike, doing something outdoors. But my cardio is my resistance training. It's like incorporated into it. And that has sustained my body and being fit and everything. So that's my path of sustainability. But I'm just curious, like, what do you recommend for? I asked a lot of questions in what I just shared because I went
I,
all
I can,
tangent.
I can, yeah, I can unpack all of that. I can
Yeah,
truly
I can't
unpack all of
please.
that. Yeah, one, I appreciate where you're at right now. Like, yeah, you were doing too much and you're going so hard, and your body was in a constant state of tissue breakdown, right? And it wasn't having time to recover. And also, well, 3 days a week, I did less, but less for you made a lot of sense, and less was truly more. Your body had a time and a chance to recover. And here's the thing about cardio is great, sure. But cardio is one thing that's pretty much free to do. Like, you can go outside, you can do whatever, like, it can be free. But when we weight train, we don't stop breathing. Why do people think that you're not getting cardiovascular benefits when you're resistance or weight training? And when I say weight training, I mean it could be body weight, it could be bands, it could be dumbbells, kettlebells. We could go down the list there. So at the minimum, I think everybody should at least do some sort of weight resistance bearing training at least 2 days per week. And that can be for 20 minutes. There was a study that was done in a slow reps, 10-second positive, 10 seconds negative, 25 minutes once a week. And the first year they gained 30 to 50% strength just from doing that once a week, just from adding that resistance, that external force. So the minimum really can be enough for you. Now you want to look like a bodybuilder, you want to look like a movie star and stuff, this is different, right? But for people with sustainability to look better and feel better, resistance training a couple of days a week. And my favorite is 10-minute walks after every single meal, and preferably backwards. Like, yes, you're gonna look like the crazy person walking backwards, but that's a prokinetic that encourages, yeah, right. So that encourages digestion, and the backwards walking helps strengthen the knees because you're working that VMO and the tendons and ligaments in there. So a lot of us have knee problems because we don't only like work and walk forward, right? We turn, we twist, we bend, we do all sorts of different things. So I walk backwards in my neighborhood after meals. People look at me like I'm a crazy person, but it's actually very good for your knee health. So take 3 10-minute walks a day, and then math here, everybody went to preschool or kindergarten. 10 plus 10 plus 10 is 30 minutes, whoa, of movement in the day. Look at that. So we just broke it apart. So right there, that doesn't seem so difficult for people, but 30 minutes does, continuously. But 10, 10, and 10, 3 times a day, not bad. If you can only do twice, do 15 and 15, right? And if you don't do the 3, it's fine. You did 20, awesome, good for you. Like those are the main staples. Like, I barely do cardio. I'll walk. Maybe I'll do shirtless run in the summer to get a tan. Let's be honest. But that's pretty much it. Like, walking can do so much. Resistance training of some form, whether that's Megaformer or Pilates or anything like that, and do something that you're not doing. So if you're like a big meathead like me and you like lifting weights all the time, go take a yoga class once or twice a month. Do the Pilates. Do something else. Do some mobility work, because, like I said, that's not only good for the body, but amazing for the brain as well.
I love that. And actually, let's touch on walking a bit, because this is one of the most underrated exercises, and it's probably one of my newest obsession is walking outside. First of all, to get the sunshine, and also it's kind of like a walking, like, for me, it's meditative. So I instantly feel more joy after going for a walk outside. But there's also a lot of people are talking about the benefits, underrated benefits of walking, opposed to doing runs or the elliptical and all these like indoor cardiovascular, exercises. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts on walking? And is that truly one of the exercises you would say, like, that's what you should be doing?
Absolutely, everybody should be walking. I got in trouble with a social media post that said the elliptical is like the most useless piece of equipment ever because it's off by like 130 calories in 30 minutes and whatever. They're like, oh, I did the elliptical. Like, I know it can be good for some people. For most people, they're doing it like lazy and they're not actually pushing themselves, right? But walking, like there was a study done that people walked twice a day for 15 minutes. It lowered their hemoglobin A1C, it lowered their fasting glucose, and even over simply just like doing other different cardio things, where like a 7-minute brisk walk before a meal can lower that insulin response of your food. So like walking can really do a lot. It's stress-free on the joints, whether it's forward or backwards or sideways or whatever, right? And you're getting outside. And sometimes like literally unplug. I mean, maybe you're gonna listen to, Passion Love Pursuit podcast. Yeah, you can do that. See, like a plug for you. So that's really good to do. You're like a walking meditation and just be within yourself. So you're working in during that point. Like, yes, that's a workout for some people. And some people, a walk may be a strenuous workout. So just be aware of that. Maybe it's just some uphill walking. So you're working the more posterior chains, you're working the hamstrings, you're working the glutes, which power the body, help stabilize the hips. Your lower back pain is going to go away. All these tremendous benefits from simply just trying to get outside and walking, especially in the winter. If you do that, embrace the shiver a little bit. A little metabolic rate increase, a little inflammatory response, that's going to go down. So there's all these benefits that can really just be attributed endlessly just to simple walking forward, backwards, sideways, diagonally, whatever you can. Just try to like 30 minutes per day, and the rest of the day, don't just lay around. Don't just lay on the couch, because then you're going to start negating some of those effects. But we do have what's non-exercise activity thermogenesis, like me moving my hands right now, twiddling my thumbs. All these things burn calories, and as we work out so much and go so crazy, there's an energy constraint model of exercise. Our bodies can only burn so many calories in a day, and there's a cap. It seems to be about 2.5 times of our resting metabolic rate. So you've ever seen a professional athlete, they burn a ton of calories, but when you see them like walking around, they're actually really slow. They're just walking because their body's naturally slowing them down because they know they're going to be burning more calories, during their football game, whatever it is. So as we exercise more and more and more, our body wants to actually slow us down a little bit when we're not exercising.
Hmm. So interesting. Okay, so switching over to, because I want to make sure we touch on it, nutrition. So what's your philosophy on nutrition? And if you want to say diet, however people
Sure.
take the word diet, what is your staples as far as that go for the minimum method?
Yeah, so I mean, I think people like you get some selenium, which is great. You can get that in 2 Brazil nuts a day. Selenium
I
is great
do
for the
that.
thyroid. Yeah, 2 Brazil nuts, like that. That's good right there. I think everybody should be having fruits and vegetables, just the fiber, and having prebiotics, probiotics. You don't have to take those, but like asparagus, something like that. Enough fiber is going to help with gut health. But a lot of people think like, oh, I need more fiber. I'm going to have a ton more fruits and vegetables. You don't want to, if you're going from 10 grams of fiber a day to 50, like your gut needs to get used to that. You're going to be gassy for weeks on end. So slowly incorporate that. I say for every about 1,000 calories you're eating, have at least 1 or 2 servings of vegetables and have like a serving of fruit. Okay, so for most people, if we can get 2 to 4 servings of vegetables in a day, which is like a fistful, let's think of like a cup of spinach, berries, something like that, and get some berries, some melon, anything like that. That's really going to help because those micronutrients are going to help antioxidant activity. It's going to help your brain. Like we can lose a lot of weight fast doing something completely extreme. Let's say like carnivore, for example, right? You're only eating meat and then you're getting rid of any carbohydrates and highly palatable foods. But in turn, every carbohydrate you intake, 3 grams of water sticks to that. So you're just losing a bunch of water weight right away. And law of thermodynamics still applies. You're eating less calories because you're having less carbohydrates. And so it's not the carbs that was causing the fat. It's like the carbohydrate insulin model, which has been debunked numerous times. Like you should still be able to eat carbs, these foods that you enjoy. But you're getting rid of highly palatable foods, often like the cookies and the cakes and the things like that. So have fruits and vegetables, go ahead and do that. And if you want to be completely plant-based or vegan, which plant-based depends on your definition, right? Then go ahead and you still just try, you might need a little bit more protein. Might just need to get it in there just for the amino acid levels and try to get the protein synthesis so we don't have too much protein breakdown. So have that. So if you're eating a meal, like I say, like let's say you're going for your meat eaters, I think like a palm size of actual, whether it's chicken breast, steak, whatever that is, and then you have a couple fistfuls of vegetables, a side of fruit, and then you can have some carbs with that. If you just did that literally for 3 meals without having to track everything, that'd be pretty good. And if you're vegan, you swap out that traditional protein for something else. You have some legumes, some beans, whether one of these other meats, if you will, like the Beyond Burger, something like that. That's fine to completely do. So I just think we get caught up in the weeds with all of that, and really like nutrition can be a little bit more simple. So start thinking about adding more good as opposed to taking away. Back to that mindset and how we speak. So there was a study, it was at University of Michigan or Michigan State, the Wolverine fans are gonna kill me if it's not right, where they literally had people go on a diet and they let them just eat sweets, whatever, but they incorporated more fruits and vegetables and healthy things in the diet. They ended up eating less overall calories because those were filling and fibrous, and they felt better. So they were adding things as opposed to saying you can't have these quote unquote bad things. So naturally you will have less bad things by putting more good into your body. Adding exercise, chew on that. Let's have some snacking on that. Have some greens, have some, instead of something fried, have some, some sort of traditional lean protein. You will just naturally start to feel better, and then maybe you'll start craving that more. Like I used to never eat fruits and vegetables, and now I love just eating salads as a dessert.
Oh, that's amazing. Salads as dessert. I love it. So if somebody is just kind of entering this space and they're trying to like up their, their routine to get healthier, is there some supplements that you feel everybody should include in their diet that you
Yeah,
would recommend?
yeah. So I mean, I think safely speaking, and always I gotta preface this like doctor,
Yeah.
doctor, right? Like let's say that. I think a good fish oil supplement is pretty much a go-to for everybody. Most of us are deficient in vitamin D. I wouldn't load up on like 50,000 IUs of vitamin D, but getting some extra vitamin D. Creatine. I think creatine is a supplement that everybody should be taking. It's not only good for the body, but it's good for the mind as well. It's one of the most studied supplements ever, and it's completely safe. Whether you are working out or not, it's even showing positive benefits to cognition and Alzheimer's just from taking creatine. So I think 5 grams of creatine a day, or 3 to 5 grams, I think for most people is good. I think people overdo melatonin. Like we're supposed to naturally produce melatonin, so I think people try to use that as a crutch a little bit. But magnesium is great. I think magnesium is something that pretty much everybody should be having as well. So you can even get like a supplement like ZMA, which is zinc and magnesium, which they're coinciding with each other, and zinc and magnesium and vitamin D help with testosterone levels if you're deficient there. So but you could just do a multivitamin, a fish oil, creatine, and some magnesium. I think right there, that's a good basis because most of us are not going to get everything from what we consume, right? We might need that, and then we can get into the weeds about having everything else and like GABA and glycine and inositol and all these different things. Like
Right.
right now, like people are like, oh, I got to do this.
Minimum.
Like this celebrity does that, right? Like just let's just start there. Let's
Yeah.
start there, because if you throw everything, but the kitchen sink into your diet, your workout plan, I would say leave an ace up your sleeve. Like if you take all these supplements, all of a sudden you feel better. If you're taking 20 supplements, how do you know which one helped you? How do you know what you were lacking in? If you could actually go get a vitamin panel, that's like one of the best things that you can do. And I think most doctors and insurances probably cover that now. To go see what you're deficient in. And you're like, oh, I'm deficient in vitamin D. Okay, maybe let's try to get more sunlight. Maybe I, supplement with some vitamin D, and then, weeks later, see where your levels are at. But yeah, we were just trying to do everything at once, and you don't really know what's working. And then like if you're going and you're working out 7 days a week and you're doing this and blah, 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 and you're like, what is working? And then at some point, your body is going to start just slowing down and plateauing. Then what do I add? Do I add more exercise? I'm already doing 7 days a week. So I'd rather burn calories off, and cut calories a little bit, and then we can play with it, and then just play with it that way. I feel like that works much better for people physically and mentally.
That's great. Well, first of all, I'm definitely going to consider taking creatine because I've never actually, out of all the things I have or that I have knowledge about, that's not one thing that I actually add in. So I'm definitely going to consider that one. And actually, I want to recommend, I recently did a hair mineral analysis test, and that was extremely informative because how could you know what you're deficient in if you never test it? And then you'll add in all these supplements and you could actually be adding too much because you're already doing quite well in that mineral, but most people are deficient in many minerals. So I'm going to highly recommend trying that. I'll put in the show notes just a link so anybody interested, because I think it's a great additive to kind of maximize your health and well-being. So your book is coming up. So of course I want people to know, like, why did you decide to write this book? Considering, being the fitness king you are, what was the deciding factor of this book, and why did you feel it was necessary to put out there in the world?
Yeah, so I mean, my first book was self-published about 6 years ago, and everybody told me to write a book. And I met with a publisher friend of mine. He's like, just write it your own. You're training all these celebrities, put their names on the back of it, some quotes, and then you'll probably get some press out of it. So, and I didn't have to wait a year and a half for the book to come out. In the publishing industry, it takes a while, but self-published, I write it myself. It's ready to go next week, right?
Yeah.
So then I was like, man, that was a lot of work. And then I'm really good friends with Dr. Ian Smith, a #1 New York Times bestselling author, and he's got a quote actually on the front of the book. And he kept telling me, he's like, hey man, I think you need to write a book, because he's like, I'm actually learning a lot from you. I think there could be something to that. So I just started thinking about it more. Ended up sort of having this concept. It was originally called the bare minimum. We changed it to the minimum method. And I got a literary agent, Park and Fine, and she's like, this is a really good idea, so let's flush this out. So I just started looking into this and all the research, and like, what are these minimum habits that people need? Because I wrote this book for the person that's on the couch trying to get to the start line, not the person that's already in the race trying to get to the finish line. And so many of us are just trying to get to that starting line, and what is that starting point? So That's the person I wrote it for. So we've got 3 different archetypes in the book, where it's let's go, so that's the person trying to get to the start line. It's level up, that's the person that's already in the race and they're going a little bit, and that's max out. That's the person that's already, they're close to the finish line. They want to do everything they possibly can. So that's a person like in the supplement section. They're going to go, they take all those supplements. They're going to do all that. They're going to wear the blue blocking glasses. They're going to do their workouts at the same time. They're going to hit all that. But that's the small percentage of the population. Most people just need to go. Let's go. So that's what I wrote it for.
Amazing. I think it's so necessary, especially for this timing of everybody's lives. I believe it's definitely necessary. So I can't wait to share it. And so thank you so much for everything you shared today. It's so helpful. And where can people best find you? #1.
Yeah, so joeythurman.com is my website, but Joey Thurman Fit on all social media platforms, even Joey Thurman Fitness on YouTube. But the book's available everywhere, pre-order, depending on when you listen to it, but you can get it whenever you want.
Awesome. Everything will be in the show notes. So always I ask my guests a closing question. And I think I shared this with you already, the closing question. So if you were to share a piece of wisdom, a life lesson you've learned along in your journey that you just feel everybody needs to learn today, I know you shared so much already, but what would that one piece of wisdom that you feel you would want to share today?
Yeah, I sort of touched on this in the beginning, but the point when you think you know everything, you know nothing. Like we need to open ourselves up. We need to be nicer people, and we need to not assume that we know everything about everybody and every subject around us, because there's so much information, right? We've got that confirmation bias. If we started looking at everything that we have similar with people, as opposed to our differences, man, we'd be so much better just as humanity. And that's one thing that I really love to see. I started doing that and practicing it myself, as opposed to like looking at this person like, oh, they're so different than me. Like, what can I find that's similar? Because I thought I knew them by looking at them. It turns out I know nothing about them. Especially with social media and people seeing me on TV or whatever, they think they know me. I'm an open book, but I have many closed chapters, Erica. So there's some things that you're not going to see about me, right? And that's okay. We have many different personalities. We have many different reactions to things. And, social media is amazing, but at the same time, I think it's sometimes a detriment to us. So just give yourself some grace, and give everybody else around you a little bit of grace, and realize you don't know everything.
Oh, so beautifully said. I completely agree. And I think that's a great way, really, I think it's natural for a lot of humans to judge like, you see somebody like for yourself, good looking, handsome man that's super fit, obviously has his shit together, he's successful and he's doing all the things, but you revealed another layer of that there's other parts of you that maybe aren't per se perfect in some people's eyes, but they're human and they're real, and it deserves to be revealed and shared. And so I think I think what you shared is just connecting our humanness. Really, it's like uh, not not thinking just by looking at a cover of what's inside, right? But beautiful. I love it. Joey, thank you. This has been such an honor. I can't wait to share all the goodness today and, of course, your book. So everybody go get it. Link is in the bio. Thank you so much, Joey, for your time. Yeah, there we go. Awesome. Thank you.